Hey everybody, welcome to one more round. Today I'm very excited. I have a new friend, Zach Cates. We just met not too long ago, but fascinating story. Top 1% real estate in the country. He has a new company, Myostomy, which we'll get into a little bit of that story. He's building a really freaking awesome barn up north right now. He was just showing me some pictures of, and yeah, dude, I'm excited to chop it up today and have some fun.
Yeah.
And you played baseball too, right?
I did.
Yeah.
Minor league guy. Never made it to the show, but I have lifelong friends and just stories you can never forget from being up there.
Yeah, no, that's
My only time in the show was when I was bat boy when I was like 15 years old.
yeah.
And Pedro threw a perfect game through 9, lost in the 10th. I was the bat boy. Burned my 15 minutes of fame, but it was freaking awesome.
Wow. So you saw Pedro Martinez?
Yeah, he was with the Expos. So I was bat boy for the Expos when they were at Jack Murphy playing the Padres. Pedro had a perfect game through 9, lost it in the 10th. On the Sunday game, I remember if it was Saturday or Sunday game, but Sean Berry hit a grand slam, and there I am giving high fives, as bat boy, and they replayed it. So I mean, I got at least 20 minutes of fame out of it.
Yeah, no,
But it was pretty cool.
that's very cool, man. So, do you miss baseball at all?
I miss the camaraderie sometimes. You know, that's why I never had a brother growing up. I think that's why I got brothers like you and Chris
Yeah.
and John and my boy Ethan and Vince and all my lifelong buddies. But you kind of miss that, showing up early, playing cards, getting your work in, and just being at the field all day.
Yeah.
Now it's just like you're just working on your craft all the time,
Yeah.
getting paid nothing.
Yeah,
that
totally.
time.
Especially in the minor leagues, right? Like you're doing all the same work as the big league guys, getting no money,
Nothing.
and just freaking grinding out. But
Especially in a 29th and 30th round draft pick like I was.
yeah,
But it's kind of like the UFC guys will complain about fighter pay, and I was like, bro, like my first year I was making $850 a month gross,
right.
and we had to pay clubhouse dues, and you had to pay rent on the hotel. It's like if I didn't have my parents, I couldn't have survived. There's no way.
Yeah, no, it's cool that you went through the experience though, because like you said, the camaraderie, the stories you get out of it. But so how did you get into real estate? Were you doing it while you were playing baseball?
It was necessity. So I finished playing. '05 was my last year. Went back to Oklahoma State, finished my economics degree out there, and then came back. My family has been in the furniture business for like 50 plus years in wholesale. So my thing was, my dad's like my hero. So I was like, I'm going to take over the family biz, take it to another level. And so I go to work for my dad, and it was like, when was this? Probably '06, '07. He's like, you got an economics degree, you're good with numbers, you should do that mortgage thing. And so I called my boy Chris Scott, and he taught me what 80-20 was in cash out refi. And I was like, cool, but I didn't know how to do business or anything. I just came out of college. I've always been like, sitting at the family store, you always have walk-in traffic and whatever, didn't know how to create business. So, I mean, I struggled. And then I put my resume online. Ditech.com calls me. Actually, a guy, I played indie ball in Washington, PA, but before then they were in Canton. So this guy, Paulo LaGreca, calls me, and he's like, hey man, come over here. So he played with the Washington Wild Things when they were in Canton the year before I went, or 2 years before I went. And so we hit it off. He hires me. So I learned how to do the business, made the President's Club my first month out of the gate. And then I figured out I didn't want to work 80 hours a week to make 80 grand a year, because it was just strenuous. And it's like, you have a big company, GMAC, Ditech, that, trickle down, you're not getting paid like you're producing your own business.
Right.
So my dad had a Bible study fellowship with a guy, and I ended up working for him, and he ended up turning to be a crook, and then another guy in the office hired me. But I had this one client, David Mariero, never forget it. He said, I trust you. You've always been honest with me. Will you get your real estate license and sell me a house and do my loan? I was broke, man.
Yeah.
Like it was even like, can I borrow $200 to go to real estate school?
Yeah.
And so I did. I did the 90-day crash course, got my license. It took me 2 times to take the test because I'm ADHD, and I went too fast. But
I know a lot of people that took like 3-4 times. So
yeah. It's easy common knowledge stuff, but it's like you go too fast, you're clicking the wrong things. But got my license, and 2000, I closed a house with him like end of '08, I think. '09 was my first full year. I started the VIP Athlete, my other company, and then ended up selling 63 houses out of the gate my first year. But 63 houses was under 8.5 million in volume back then, because it's like,
this is what, '09?
'09.
Yeah, okay.
So it's like I was struggling. I'd be like, bro, there was a condo that was an end unit, wraparound patio, had a pool, 3-bed, 2-bath, over by the Biltmore. It was like 22nd Street and just south of Camelback, like Campbell, basically. Yeah. I had to pull teeth to sell that for $40,000.
That's insane.
Nowadays, you can't buy a Prius for 40 grand.
Right. Yeah, I remember. So a good friend of mine, Danny Brown, so he owns Myriad Real Estate. He started about that same time, and he says it was insane. Like for me to make 100 grand, he had to do like 80 homes because they were so cheap.
Yeah.
And but
And banks didn't pay commission all the
Yeah.
time, so you had to negotiate. And it's like, dude, if you're struggling to get somebody to buy it, it's like you can't ask them to pay your commission.
right,
So some deals you were doing, whatever. But that's probably where I got my staunch attitude in negotiations, is just from dealing with banks early on. And I used to have a stack of manila folders just on my desk and this little tiered thing, and be like, I go through every day, call, email, every file. And I think I've closed over, I think 150 short sales, and I like it. I liked it.
Yeah.
It was easy. Dealing with the banks, you don't have to deal with personalities where people are getting emotional, and just hammer them out.
yeah. Well, and I mean, what better learning experience than going through that kind of volume and during that time too? Even though they're small dollar amounts, like today, it's like probably taking a piss.
Yeah.
Doing as many homes as you do now because it's just
It's wild
different.
too. That's why I tell people like that get into real estate, I said, do not pay $250, $350 a file to get a transaction coordinator or an assistant. You're starting out, you need to conserve money. It's just my economical brain thinking, but I'm like, okay, if I close 100 deals in a year, it's 25 grand.
Yeah.
That's my kid's tuition at school right now.
Yeah.
So I'm like, for both of them, I was like, that's a lot of money. I was like, this is things that I can do that I think early on, nobody taught me anything. So I'm reading through the contracts and I'm basically just cutting my teeth on the fly. And so many corrections. And mind you, this is back in the day, they wouldn't accept DocuSign, nothing. DocuSign didn't even come out, I think, till 11 or 12. And banks wouldn't accept it until, I think, like 6-7 years ago. So it's one of those where if I screwed up, I would have to get in the car and go drive and have to sign a new thing.
Yeah.
And just the time consumption was inordinate. But now it's a lot easier learning curve. But I always tell people, do it all yourself from the get-go. Save that money. But you're also going to be teaching yourself contractual lingo and going through everything yourself.
Yeah.
And so if like you have to upload your files to SkySlope, you learn how to do that. It's super simple. You can do it on your phone. And like when I had ulcerative colitis, early on I was going to the bathroom so much, I would literally just do my files while I'm on the toilet.
Yeah.
It's like, why am I going to pay somebody $250 to do this
Yeah.
when it takes 2 minutes? It's no big deal.
Yeah, see, I have a similar take on that, but for a different reason. So I started my digital agency in 2008, right? And I learned to do everything. And the short story was I had this guy that wanted to partner, but he didn't like to pay me. So I'm like, well, all he was doing was building the websites. I was literally getting all the customers. I'm like, well, fuck, I can learn to do what you do.
Yeah.
So I did. I went my own direction. I'm like, cool, I got to learn to build websites. So I learned that. I learned pay-per-click advertising. I learned how search engine optimization worked. I learned all the ins and outs of the production portion of my business, and obviously I knew how to sell it. But because of that, and I have people that are way more capable and have more talent in every position that I have now, but I know what to hire for, because if I hadn't have known how everything worked,
Right.
I can't have the conversations, I can't ask the right questions. And although I always look for attitude when hiring, like attitude is something you can't teach. Somebody has to physically, they have to choose to have a good attitude, and they got to choose to have a good work ethic, right? But you got to know the technical things. So now, like I'm sure when you hire people that are on your team or you're giving advice, I mean, they should know how to do everything, right?
That's what I tell them. I've only trained, I've trained 4 people now. And Ryan Healy, he played in the big leagues. I'm helping him out right now, and never really did the team thing so much because I only had myself and Eric Miller. We did the VIP team to coincide with the VIP athlete, but he ended up selling, 10 plus million a year. And Ken Gould, he's at, I think, North and Company now, and he does 10 plus million a year. And this other guy, Armand Shields, played in the NFL, same thing. So as long as you are a sponge and soak it in, you're going to perform. But I love working with athletes and guys that grind it out, because there's a certain form of work ethic that you have to possess in order to take no's and doors slam in your face and compete day to day without motivation. Like you have to be self-motivated, and that's a big part of, owning a gym and doing that stuff too is the same thing. It's like you got to work out.
Yeah.
It's not just going to happen naturally.
Right. Well, I mean, good point on that is like perseverance is huge. John, who owns this with Eric, when he came down here, their first one was in Avondale. He worked for 9 straight months every single day. 9 straight months. Who else is going to, that? But that's the mentality it takes, and he's also an athlete. Yeah. So, he's also an athlete background, same kind of thing. You know, you're a baseball player, so what's the saying? You're gonna strike out 7 out of 10 times anyway. You just go through the
I hope
reps.
you're not. Nowadays you might, but no, you're going to get out 70% of the time. If you're 30% success, you're an all-star.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, it's nuts, and you have to deal with failure. Mm-hmm. And it's always like it's like if you're in a slump. I always put it this way: you have two frames of mind. Either you're digging a hole. You can either keep digging to the other side, or you can just bury it on top of you. So you're in a slump. You can either just cash it all in,
Yep.
or you can figure out like, hey, I'm due.
Yeah.
You know, I'm due. I can't be failing this long. I'm going to get a hit sooner or
Yep.
later. And so this is going to be the time.
It's a callous mental muscle that you just build, and it's like, no, this is going to be the time.
It's a big mind screw too. It's tough. You fight with yourself every day, especially owning your own businesses.
Oh.
It's like, I always tell people I hate my boss, and they're like, aren't you self-employed? I was like, yeah.
Yeah. I know that saying well, because I mean, I've been in business for myself since '08, right? And I have some partners and stuff, but you know, it's me grinding every single day in the businesses, and people are like, oh man, they look at me from a certain optic, and I'm like, you were looking at the wrong optic. You don't know what it's like to almost go broke a couple times. You don't know what it's like to take payroll and be like, great, 20 grand out of my pocket that I got to put in because there's not enough in the cash account. You know, those are things that are realities, and yeah, there's some wins that come along with that too, but it's like, dang, you know, if you can get a good job and you can stay in that job and do your thing, great. I'm not built that way, you know. I don't think you're built that way, right? You got to kind of do your own thing.
I kind of want to eat what I kill, you know, and not have too many things in the middle of it that are taking little pieces out here and there. But like we're building that toy barn up north, and my buddy Ryan McGee, he was like, so here's my estimate of what things are going to cost me. I said, okay, I'm going to tell you this now. Add 20% just to be safe. I wouldn't have known that, you know, a year ago, but now I do. I was like, let me share the intel. Just prepare yourself. You know, it's just an extra tool in the kit a little bit, but it's, you know, if you don't know about payroll and stuff and you want to start a gym, these are things you need to consult a business owner and shadow them or whatever and look at books and, you know, learn every aspect of it. Because the big things, like for me, is the money aspect, the economical aspect. That's easy for me, but some people could be hard. But then the staffing and the management is not something I do day to day. So I'd have to get somebody to be like, hey, teach me how to do this. Learn how to do this. What kind of weights do you buy? Why do you do Rogue versus another brand? Why do you do all these other things? Like, are they supporting you? Are they helping you advertise? Like, there's so many facets to business, but the big thing is, in order to thrive in your business, you got to cash flow it.
Yep.
And if you don't know, like, you got to dig in your pocket for 20 grand. It's like, okay, how much capital? Say it's going to cost me 100 grand to start a business. How much do I need to have on the side just in case?
Yep.
And those are things you got to know. But
Totally.
that's like you're learning from the ground up and teaching yourself and getting in this business. Maybe nobody taught you, but you for sure know now because you had to cross that hurdle. You had to get over it. And I think that's only fruitful. I mean, get in there, go full tilt. You're going to get knocked down.
Yeah.
Just like boxing right now. I suck. Like, this kid Gavin is so fast, and it sounds like a drum cadence when he's hitting, and then I sound like a Clydesdale walking.
Right.
Just bop, bop, bop. And it's like, man, I suck, you know, and cardio sucks. And, you know, I'm two years post-op now, but it's like, cardio still sucks no matter where you're at.
It's good to suck at things that you are building a new skill at. I think I always try to pick up a new skill here and there. I just started drawing. It's why it's kind of fresh in my mind. Like last night, my dad's an artist, so he's talented as all get out. I'm like, let me try. I did a picture. It's not good. It's okay though. I can get better. Now I can look at it and be like, what could I do better if I duplicate this? You know, how could I have my strokes? How could I make sure that my lines are straight? Or do I use a ruler? You know, you start asking these questions, and then I'm creating another skill. But going through that suck, I think is good for humans to do, and to do things that you're not good at. Because when you do that, it kind of builds this resilience that you don't get when fucking everything comes easy. You know, so.
And then you just probably save $2,000 for the next time you got to do a logo.
Yeah, there you go.
You know.
There you go. Yeah, so I know you talked a little bit about some health challenges that you've had, and that leads into your company that you started here.
Sure.
You know, tell me a little bit about that.
So it was about 12, almost 13 years ago, I got diagnosed with Crohn's disease, so inflammatory bowel disease. Dealt with it. I was on immunosuppressive meds and prednisone and all this stuff for the last 7 years, and it just got bad. And you know, I was going to the bathroom 20 plus times a day. I bought a Sprinter van to show houses because I had a bathroom on it. I was going to do Game of Crohn's app. You know, I took pictures of my shoes every time I was going to the bathroom and being like, okay, the stalls are located right in the front. It's easy access, especially if you're really in a hurry. Yeah. And then, you know, take pictures and do that. It'd be great for pregnant women too, because they got to pee all the time.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh yeah, so you know the good bathrooms, like QT's got 2 stalls and this one has 6 and whatever. We never did it, but try to just make light of it. But it got so bad at the end, and you know, anytime you see blood, you got to take 40 milligrams of prednisone, and you go 30, 20, 10, 5 off. I'd get to 10 and have another flare, and that was consistent for 7 years. So it's like I'd be going down on prednisone, back up, down, and you shouldn't be on that stuff. And I think the immunosuppressive meds, they're great because they help me deter pain and cramping and stuff like that, but it never healed the issue. So fast forward to 2 years ago in March, and I went 53 times in 2 days, and my GI doc said I'd go to the hospital, and so the nurse was like, how are you hydrated? It's like, well, you know, I got Crohn's, I'm not stupid. Figure water out, water in. And she's like, well, that makes sense. I was like, yeah. So they did an endoscopy and colonoscopy and found out it was isolated in my lower GI. So it wasn't Crohn's, it was ulcerative colitis. And so at that point I was like, rip it out. I've been thinking about it a long time, and I was like, didn't do research, didn't psych myself out. And so I called my boy Dennis Sarfate, and I said, bro, pray for me. I need a surgeon. And he goes, well, you know, my neighbor's a surgeon. I said, really? He was in Fulton Island. And I said, well, can I talk to him? He's like, I'll send you his number, and vice versa. And then Dr. Venkatesh called me. He was waiting in Gilbert Christian parking lot. He was about ready to go watch his daughters play volleyball in like an hour.
Wow.
And so I literally talked to him for 45 minutes to an hour. Awesome guy. And 2 weeks later, the operation was done on April 7th. So first day after surgery, worst pain of my life. And then after that, it just got better and better, and you're learning stuff. And I learned like the products we use, or my pun is nobody gives a shit about shit baggers.
Yeah.
Because I got an ostomy bag, and you know, it collects stool, but I don't think it is, you know, it does billions and billions in revenue every year, but it's a small data set. There's 5 million patients worldwide. There's 200,000 new patients every year. And it's just different. But I'm glad I made the decision and did that. And then a couple months afterwards, I called Venkatesh and I was like, hey bro, you wanna make this stuff better? And so we started on the journey of doing products. And one of my best friends, Vince Galletti, hooked us up with their team, and designed our first products and everything. And then we got hooked up with Resilient Medical through Derek Havens, who's the VP at Dignity, and the guy's been awesome. And so they're manufacturing our products. Our first 25,000 units should be done June 30th, and I think we get them like 2 weeks later.
Cool.
And then we go to market.
Yeah.
So it's cool, just trying to help other people's lives. But I've known just from my buddy Ethan and all the people he's hooked me up with that are talking about CMS reimbursement and all these things that I don't know about. So I'm leaning on the bigger people, like we talked about earlier.
Yep.
But my goal is to help people. And selfish mission for me, I get to test all the products first because I invent them. But if they don't work, also real feedback that it didn't work. So let's try something new. But the big numbers are insurance, cost savings, and you know, hospitals. On average, every ostomy patient, whether it's urostomy, colostomy, or ileostomy, incurs $75,000 in skin damage per patient.
Okay.
So that's $75,000 times $200,000 a year.
Yeah, because you were saying like basically if it kind of leaks, it causes almost like a burn type of sensation.
So your colon
right?
sucks out all the water. This is all, talk about learning new stuff. I had no idea about anatomy. Like my surgery took 2.5 hours longer because my colon was on my pancreas, and you had to be real careful, I guess, cutting it out. I didn't even know your colon and pancreas were in the same realm. Yeah. I just knew they were in your body. So I learned a little bit about anatomy and stuff. But yeah, the colon sucks out the water, and that's what hardens your stool. So I think sucking out the water and stuff, it kind of takes out a lot of the acidity as well. So not having that, your stool is always acidic. Now, gross enough, my poop is thicker than it was for the last probably 7 years of having ulcerative colitis. Because I also learned you got to intake 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight and things like that, things to deter, you know, diarrhea and stuff like that. But the stool is super caustic, so when it hits your skin, it's kind of like a battery acid feeling.
Yeah.
And it's not good, and it's very frustrating. Like if you're got to change your seal, so you have a blowout and you have to change it and you're active and it keeps coming. Number 1, you can't feel it. Number 2, you could be almost done with like putting paste on and stuff like that, and you have an eruption. You're like, oh my God, then you got to start over, and it sucks. Yeah. And so our goal was The old way is use a tissue and try to do everything one-handed. Well, what happens if you don't have dexterity? You know, I have Dupuytren's in my hand, like, and they want your finger to be like 90 degrees before they'll operate on it. And so I'm doing a needling procedure and stuff to break it up. But imagine if, like, say you don't have another hand. Say you got your arm blown off in a war and you have a claw or whatever. You can only use one hand. You couldn't have an ostomy and change it. You'd have to have a nurse do it all the time.
Right.
So our goal is
to help people be more self-sufficient with it and make
and
it
use
easier.
both hands, because then you have an easier job. And then also you can take the time, because stool's not getting everywhere. You can take the time to do the seal right. An average ostomy seal lasts 2 to 3 days. Mine lasts 7.
Oh.
So, and we've had nothing but positive feedback, and it's kind of like the aha thing. The first patient that said, "How come nobody did this before?" Then I got really happy, because I'm like, I didn't know anything about ostomies. I didn't do research before surgery. I just knew God put a hurdle in front of me, and a speed bump, whatever you want to call it, and I was going to go over it.
Yeah.
And so I did. And I think if I would have researched it more, I probably would have been too cerebral about it, instead of just like, I'm going to get it done.
Yeah.
And so I got it done. And then after surgery too, I hooked up with Joel Ingram over at Vios Med. And it's in Chandler, like Gilbert and 202. They're awesome, but I learned about getting your levels checked, making sure you don't have any vitamin deficiencies so you can heal properly and all that stuff. And you know, I was quasi-anemic afterwards, so I was taking beef organ supplements and all this stuff that I didn't know. And I wish I would have known it before, because it probably would have deterred it. And even though it would probably hurt my ostomy business from sales of people in my situation, I still tell people, like, you know, up the protein. I know this new liberal push of vegan diets and everything, but highly estrogenic foods is like the new norm.
Yeah.
I mean, just like Bill Gates is the
kill
largest.
our testosterone and
And then you can kill growth. You can kill, you know, motivation and angst and some anger and like stuff like that. And it's like Bill Gates is the largest farm owner in the United States, and he doesn't farm.
Yeah.
He just wants to desecrate the earth, and, you know, because the cows fart and that causes issues. But God gave us everything we need to survive on the earth, and I think the superfoods like meat, eggs, stuff like that is high in protein, gives you, you know, superfood antibodies and everything else that you can't get from just vegetables.
Absolutely, man. I switched to doing grass-fed beef like, I don't know, 5 years ago, and that's really all I eat, unless I'm at a restaurant. They just don't have it. And dude, I've noticed, I mean, not only with, you know, effects from going to the gym and all that kind of stuff, but just being more full on less meat. And it's like you're getting all that nutrients. It's
so I tell people that do that protein diet, you know, I was like, you're going to hate me for 2 months. But in the first month, you're going to be like, this is stupid. It's like a full-time job to eat 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. And so, like, first form, we were talking about Fricella, and like, I love their stuff. It dissolves quick and it's super clean. So I'll do that. And I also take their Optigreens and Optireds, because if I eat vegetables, like, I can tell you within 6 hours what digests in your upper GI and what doesn't. So it's like lettuce is whole, mushrooms are whole, all this stuff. So I'm like, okay, I'm not digesting this. So supplement that sort of things. But it's, you know, you have a full-time job, and I think America, we're so driven towards money instead of health.
Yeah.
You can't work if you're unhealthy.
Right.
So you better make that a priority, and you just gotta do a little bit more every day. Like Cam Haynes' book is Endure. He's like, if you can't run, walk. And while you're walking, you know, say you can walk a half mile today. We'll try to walk 0.6 miles next day, 0.7, and keep ramping up. And then when you can, mix in a jog. And I mean, I know you can't do it, like if you have dexterity issues or knee problems, but try to mix it in, and then you just keep ramping it up. Just do a little bit more every day. Like I could barely do 1 push-up after surgery, and I couldn't do anything for, I think it was either 60 or 90 days post-op. You could only lift like no more than 10 pounds
or something. Yeah.
And it's like, crap, I didn't know everything's more than 10 pounds, really.
Yeah.
And it was, my wife always says it was just a joy for me to drive, because driving was so stressful for me, because I'm constantly going like, well, if I got a shit, where am I going to go?
Yeah.
And now I'm just like, just driving around. Like, I have shirts that say I'm pooping, because I probably am right now. I don't know. You can't feel it, so it is what it is. But it's take your health seriously, and that way you can keep performing and producing.
Yeah, no, it's huge. So my partner Eric, he always just says simply, you got to take care of the car, right? You know, if you're not taking care of the car, eventually it's going to die out. And do you want it to go, 300,000 miles, or do you want to get 100,000 out of it?
Yeah.
And, taking care of our bodies, the way we eat, the nutrition that we put in. Like I just started our company, so full disclosure, I do sell these, but peptides. We started on peptides. So I've been doing BPC 157, some
I took CJC.
Okay.
Yeah,
I want to try that one. So some
Healing and
another
flexibility
one.
is that one.
Yes, and BPC 157 is very similar to that one. And then I've been on NAD plus, like injections of that. And
is that the quick dissolving testosterone in your stomach?
So no, NAD plus is actually an antioxidant, and it's in our cells now. But when we turn 40, it drops drastically, like 50%.
The one with the patches?
No, I don't think they make patches. It's usually either through intravenous, through IV, or they're just little shots, like an insulin shot.
Yeah.
But it's cool because since your body stops producing this, you're putting it in, and what it does is it regenerates your cell. I started taking that about 30 days ago. Dude, the mental clarity was stupid. I mean, it was like this fog lifted that I wasn't even aware of. And I'm like, wow. And John told me that would be the case, but I didn't want to get it done through an IV because apparently like it can put a little pressure on your heart.
Yeah.
And I had heart failure and all that stuff. But when I found out I could do injections.
Just a small side note.
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of big one.
Well, yeah. But dude, they're excellent for you. And I think that's where medicine is going. It's preventative and wellness. I was just talking to my Dr. Garst, my chiropractor, about it. And it's like, that's where we need to be going as a society and get off all, like you were talking.
Healthcare instead of sick care.
Exactly. But I did want to hit on something that you said a minute ago because I really liked it. You were talking about you're glad you didn't do a bunch of research before you got into it because it might have deterred you. And it reminded me, have you ever read, it's called Total Recall by Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's his autobiography.
I haven't.
Okay.
I can hear him in my head though.
It's fascinating, and I know he's gone off the rails on the political side of things, but his life itself is pretty damn fascinating. And one of the things he said, though, somebody had asked him about business, because he was in buildings, he was rich before he ever got into movies, and they said, well, how do you decide to do something? He says, well, I just decide to do it, and then I start doing it. I don't give it too much thought, because if I give it too much thought, I won't do it. And I'm like, that's a very interesting mindset, and I've adopted that. Like, when we got in the IV business, I didn't know anything about the IV business, but I know I can learn, and I have that skill. So, cool, let's do it. Is it profitable? You run the numbers. All right, let's go.
Yeah.
So I think more people would do better if they didn't have that analysis paralysis in their life and just understand that sometimes you're going to fail and sometimes you're going to win. But the more you do it, the more wins you stack up.
Yeah, I think it's true. The research, the analysis, or paralysis by analysis is big. You're always going to get somebody, so I trusted a naturopath early on that steered me the wrong way. Now I have a naturopath that is spot on.
Yeah.
But it's like I always say you need to consult with at least two people. You can't just take one person's opinion, because especially if they own a business, they want to do it their way.
Yep.
Well, just check out a couple different ways, just to be safe, especially with your health. Just get a couple opinions. But otherwise, in business, it's like, dude, if you got the itch to do it and it's on your mind, then just go do it. I mean, that's what I did.
Yep.
The guy said, I need to sell a house. Well, I need money. Sell me a house. Okay, well, I'll go get my license.
Yeah.
So here you go. And so I made the money, and and the rest is kind of history on that. But it's you gotta be willing to grind and go out and get it. But yeah, don't be. How many times does the Bible say, do not fear?
Right.
I mean, we're not supposed to fear. And that's what's so frustrating about the last few years with the pandemic and this COVID deal and the vaccination hoax and all this stuff, is that it was just fear mongering is all it was. And I was like, this is all coming from Satan. It's not coming from Christ. They're pushing out this stuff. They're scaring you into your homes. They're scaring you out of the gym. They're scaring you away from things that will make you healthier. Because why? And we don't know why yet. I mean, we got some.
It's my
they're
ideas.
Conspiracy theories, but in 6 months they're going to be true. But it's they're definitely weakening testosterone. They're weakening men.
Yeah.
They're idolizing mental illnesses and stuff like that. And it's like, look, we grew up in a different age, and I'm glad we did.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we had strong men in our, my dad, strong man, my grandpa, strong man. I consider myself that, but I don't see it as often of people that are my age or a little bit younger. They didn't have to endure the hardships. I mean, I just became hard because I've been self-employed since 2008. So, you get a little calloused over some time. But,
you start disliking people, or at least noticing that you dislike people.
Yeah, well, and you start to get a little more leery when you meet people, and you keep a little edge. John and I were talking about this, and you have a little edge that you always keep because you're always wondering, what somebody wants to get out of you, and unless it's like a different circumstance, you meet somebody like we met at a cool speaking event that Chris put together, and like I could tell, we had some synergy right away, and we have some similar mindsets on things, and it's pretty cool. Speaking of, you're super successful, dude. Like, what would you tell somebody who is 18 years old, maybe wanting to get into real estate or go into business for themselves? And what are you telling them for 5 years? Do this for 5 years.
Grind. I would say thin your budget. Know how to eat ramen, and watch your bottom line. Cook for yourself. Get a plan on that. Work out. Those are probably the most important things. Open your Bible, read it every day, and surround yourself with people that are encouraging you. But I'm not some hyper intelligent guy that it became successful because I'm so smart. Mm-hmm. I invented a thing. I have a patent. Cool. We'll see how the business does. I think it's going to do great. And I got some more inventions I think that are going to be even better for patients like myself. But my dad has unbelievable work ethic. So does my mom. And I think that was a hereditary trait that I got that, I do that with. My dad always said, I always see something bigger than he ever sees. Mm-hmm. He's just trying to get to the next step. And like, dude, he got our family business through bankruptcy. Like when everybody's declaring bankruptcy in the 80s and stuff like that, they fought, never had to do anything. They survived. And so he's a survivor. He knows how to get it done. So I was just trying to get it done. Yeah. I've hung out with big leaguers, NBA players my whole life and seen what this money is. And it's like, you're like, I want to be that successful.
Yeah.
I don't want to look, I don't want to be able to not go to a restaurant with my friends because I can't afford it. I want to be able to do whatever I want to do. And my uncle always said, be successful enough to do what you want to do and pay people to do what you don't.
Yeah.
So, okay, cool. So pool guy and a landscaper, that's what we got. But I would say it's just, you're going to have work ethic. And if you don't have it, go be an employee.
Yeah.
There's entrepreneurs and there's employees, and there's no shame on either one of them.
Not at all.
But it's hard, man. You can run a business into the ground pretty quick, and you have to have the fighter mentality, and that's why I think working out or doing some athletic thing where it's competitive is very important, because then when the chips are stacked and you come back and win, it's the same thing goes right over to business. Like you're like, okay, I'm gonna keep fighting. Let's see how we can thin this budget out or whatever, and keep going for this because I got some things they're gonna pop. Yep. And then it's just time and time and time.
Right.
But if people ask me to get into real estate, my first question is why? Mm-hmm. Well, I see what you do. Okay, are you willing to do the work that I do? Probably not. I don't have a transaction coordinator, no assistant. I just grind all day. Mine is all, God gifted me with work ethic and networking. Yeah. Like I have a mind like a steel trap for useless information, and I remember way too much, but I always remember to hit my buddies up like every day. I'm like, always on the phone, just catching up with people and whatever. I'm really interested in seeing how they're doing and stuff. Yeah. But that always, also in business wise, it keeps you fresh in there. Like, oh yeah, remember send Kate's, like if I hear a real estate thing, send it to Zach.
Yep.
That's what we do. And then just always be honest, forthright, and have a high level of integrity, and your business will grow slower, but it will be far more fruitful at the end when it snowballs.
No, that's great advice, man. I think, you were talking about, if you don't have the work ethic, be an employee. And I'll say there's nothing wrong with that, because the reality is I had somebody who works.
It's not work ethic. Not saying being an employee with no work ethic. I'm just saying,
willing to put in.
If you don't know the direction and all that stuff, and you're not super self-motivated, but you're like, hey, I can't design my own workout. But if you write the workout on the window or on the mirror, and you're like, Kate's do all this, I can do that.
Yeah.
But for me to go, okay, I need to do this, 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 and this, I'm not going to do it. So you need a trainer, you need an employer that will tell you this is what you have to do. Right. And so you're good at checklists. Mm-hmm. Go find an employer that will teach you all the checklists and get doing that. And then you know what? Like say you want to be a financial planner. You go work for Smith Barney, you go work for Merrill Lynch, Charles Schwab, all these guys or whatever. You learn under meet the good guy and you're like, okay, this guy's killing it. But you're going to have to start off like suits as a grunt.
Yeah.
And work your way up. And then once you get up there, then all the tools that you've gained, then you can go share those with other people. And hopefully, if you have a couple different mentors, you take the best pieces of them, you kind of mold yourself, and then you can one day be bigger. But at the beginning, you got to build some capital.
Yeah.
And if you can't do it yourself, or you're unwilling to do it yourself and do what it takes, then you need to learn from somebody that has been doing it for a while. That way, they can help give you the tools.
Totally. Well, and I tell people all the time. I mean, I did it a little different. I started my first company at 19, but I was employed until I was employed until I was 27. So it was like a side hustle deal. So I could get to that point. But I mean, go work for a corporation in something you're interested in and learn how the business works. Build up some money and then go do it. But but people that are just employees and that's all they want to be, that's totally cool too. I had somebody recently come to work for me, and in the interview she had said, "How much vacation time do I get?" Like that was a question. I never would have been a question in any interview I ever did in my entire life. I didn't care about that.
Immediately saying, how much time off do I get?
Yeah, I wanted to know, what's my commission structure? How can I maximize the money that I'm making here? How can I do the best job? And I don't even think
as a
about
boss,
that.
you want to be like, I want to see you work so hard, I'm going to force you to take some time off.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's just a different mentality, and not a bad or a negative. It's just different.
And also, don't make it about the money.
Yeah.
Make it about, either how many deals you do, how many reps you do, whatever, because the money will come.
Yeah.
But if you focus on the money, biblically, money is the root of evil. The
Right.
love of money is the root of evil.
Yep.
So if you're loving the money, you're missing the people.
Yep.
And that's I love people. That's
Me
the only
too.
reason I'm still in real estate, because 100,000 agents in the state, and every day is a different idiotic challenge,
Yeah.
But
I'm the same way, man. I love people. That's why I do a podcast. That's why I network and become friends with as many people as possible, because at the end of the day, number one, I believe I survived heart failure, and I'm supposed to do something. I don't know what God has planned exactly, but I do know whoever I'm sitting in front of, there's a reason I'm sitting in front of them, and I got to be intentful to that and be very, intentional with that time.
it's pretty wild. Every day He puts somebody in your path that you just like.
It's dope, actually. It's so
Yeah.
cool, man. I could tell story after story, and it's just how if I wouldn't have talked to that person, I would, like Corey Jackson I was telling you about before. He has a security company, great guy. We met at Opalife, right? We're just sitting across the bar talking, had a great conversation. See him again, and he tells me he's a good golfer. And I said, well, let's go play golf. We go and play golf together. Now he's one of my very good friends, and he's fascinating. But had I not opened up and I would have just sat to myself, ate my lunch, and left, I wouldn't have a friend.
Sure.
And I think people should adopt more of that mindset, because it never hurts not knowing more people.
That's the whole networking aspect too. Is like you gotta be able to extrovert, and just like. That's what I hate about society today, is like there's not please and thank you. There's not any forgiveness, at least as the media is concerned. But it's like all these biblical values are kind of getting washed away. But we got to stand firm in that. You still got to hold the door open for people.
Yes.
And whether they say thank you or not, that's not why you do it. But always make sure, like my kids know, if somebody holds the door or brings you to your table to go eat, you say thank you.
Yep.
And you say please, and you do these things. But that's like, what's wrong with saying, how you doing today?
Yeah.
Like the coffee people, or whatever. It's like, you having a good day? Yeah, I'm having a good day. How's your day going? And then you're in a conversation. You can learn a little bit.
Right.
Even like Fight Club, they call them single-use friends or whatever on the airplane. But every time I've been on an airplane, I always meet somebody interesting that has like a different story. And if you just put your headphones on, and I do that sometimes too, where I'm just like, I need a nap. I'm going to do this, whatever. But if I don't, it's like if you're on a longer flight, you communicate. Like, why not?
See, I feel when I don't talk to people, I'm missing out on part of what God's story is for me. That's the kind of way I look at it.
That is a great way to look at it.
So, dude, this was fun. How can people find you? How can they, support myostomy? How can they, do a real estate deal with you?
Real estate deals, they can email me.
All right.
They can post contact information. We want myostomy.live or .live, however you want to say it, is our website. So you can see there's cool videos of my surgeon and I, some good stories, some tips of changing and everything, and how the product works, and all that stuff is all accessible online. And then they'll be able to order it like the end of July if they want.
Okay.
We actually had a bunch of people come on and order it, and I was like, I felt so bad, and I had some extra prototypes, and so I just mailed them to them.
Cool.
And so just to get the feedback, I was like, I want to help people in this, but again, I understand like the sales pitch. If anybody knows hospital executives, surgeons, doctors, nurses, and connect us with them, we'd love to meet them, and we'd love to change the ostomy world in any capacity we have, let people have a better life, and there's billions of dollars in savings too. Like just for myself too, on my products, medical insurance pays half of my bill every month. My bill's like $160 a month for my products.
Yeah.
I literally use half of the products I get. So now I can cut my bill into 80.
Oh, that's great.
So for a general consumer, that's great. Well, also for the insurance company, I mean, you're talking 5 million patients worldwide that you're going to cut their bills in half.
Right.
Or, even if 50% of them, whatever, cut their bills in half. Huge.
Yeah.
Huge.
Well, I mean, I think we'll get some support from insurance companies too, because anything that cuts down on their bottom line.
I hope so. So yeah, anybody knows an owner of a big insurance company, that'd be a good lead too. But whatever we can do to help. Eventually, I want to create a permanent seal.
Okay.
So all you have to do is you can get 365 bags a year. Take your bag off at the end of the day and put on a new bag.
Awesome.
And then you're hunting on and off, no big deal. But I need to meet Elon Musk or NASA or something to do that. I bet we could do it in a weekend.
Yeah.
But until then, it's keep on grinding and kind of be like BASF. Like this is a unique product that is not out there. It's patented now and all that stuff, but or patent pending. I don't know if it's patented yet. I think it is, but don't fact check me because I'm not 100% sure. But otherwise, it's like BASF. You want to make the products that you have better, or invent products that can work with the same products but make them last longer. And then hopefully that'll influence these big three companies that own 98.5% of the market share into making their products actually better, and give a shit about the shitbaggers.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Well, thanks for coming down today. This was a lot of fun. We'll have to do it again. We'll get into some other things.
Have to go do it at the barn next time.
Yeah, no, that'd be great. Yeah,
he can have some Clase Azul while we're rapping. You just got to Uber down.
There we go. Sounds good. Well, guys, I know you got a ton out of this. Zach's awesome. I know you enjoyed some of the stories. Support his businesses however you can. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Please share this out with somebody that could get some value out of it, some benefit, and we will see you next time.